Welcome back to the Iced Coffee Hour. So today we have a really special guest. We have MeetKevin Paffrath, and he's going to tell us all about how much he's making this year, his tax write-offs, why he wants to buy a plane now, everything else about his business. It's a really interesting episode, and he also gets into his thoughts on the market. Stay tuned if you want to see what's going to happen in 2022 right now.
Welcome back to another episode of the Iced Coffee Hour. The podcast has made more than $69,420 to date. I don't know exactly how much, but let's just get into talking and drinking drinking. Hello.
Thanks for coming on, Kevin. It's great to see you as always.
Welcome.
And this time in California.
Yeah, back to California. I think I'm stuck here forever. I think last time we talked about me wanting to leave and go to Vegas or something like that.
Yes. What happened to that? Can you tell us?
One of the things I did is I just went to the extreme, and I'm like, you know what? I should just move to Puerto Rico. And I should move there half of the week, essentially. Yeah. Go there for 4 days, work Monday through Thursday, and then just fly back and forth from Puerto Rico. It's like a 6.5 hour one way, and just do that back and forth. I thought then my theory was I'll just work really hard during those 4 days, do the 4-day work week, and then the other 3 days do zero work and just spend time with Lauren and the kids or whatever. And then I would be mostly in Puerto Rico. If you start businesses there, you have to prove you have a more critical connection there, which that's probably one of the hard parts to do. But anyway, you could try it. And your tax rate would go down to like 4.5%.
It would be tricky because your family is here.
So there's like a criteria of like 20 different things on the form, like where you're registered to vote, what clubs you're part of, where your businesses are. So we were thinking of starting like 5 businesses there, like hiring dozens of employees and just trying to check everything else off on the list to kind of weigh the scale more to that side. But in that sort of thought experiment, I'm like, my goodness, let's just say as an example, you had $10 million of income. You would save somewhere around 0.75 or whatever million dollars in taxes doing that, which is just like insane, right? You'd be paying virtually no taxes. But the problem with that is, you'd have to go back and forth, which is the pain in the butt. And number two, I would not see my family for those 4 days. And one of the things that what I really like about working from home is I make a video, come outside, and I just wrestle with my kids or go to breakfast with Lauren.
I would argue you might actually see your family more.
That was my belief too.
If you did the 3 days, because you would see them all day.
Exactly.
And you wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Could you actually, though, go a day without posting a video? Well, I almost believe that you would be like, hey, kids, 1 sec. And then you'd get out your phone and be like, guys, the market just went crazy. It's about to flip.
Yeah, that was another issue, too, is that I don't know if I could actually, and it sounds weird, like, how could you not take a day off? So I did this thing where, maybe 5 years ago, my father-in-law's, Kevin, you owe yourself. Just take a day off and just put your phone in a drawer. Just don't answer. Just do whatever you want just for a day. Take a day off. Do that every week. And so it became a thing. Like I'd have in a signature on my emails, Kevin takes Saturdays off to spend time with family. And so clients knew, just leave me alone that day. If you need someone else, to cover, like call somebody else who could cover me on Saturdays. And people really came to respect that. They're like, oh, that's so great. You spend time with family on Saturday. I did that for about a year. And I realized I was the most unhappy that Saturday over and over. Yeah. I was a Grinch. I wasn't happy around being around my family all day because I felt unproductive. I wasn't getting anything done. Yeah. And so I was actually losing my mind. So I was actually more bitter to Lauren. And so Saturdays were worse than when I would work and then, hey, Lauren, let's go to breakfast. Cause I feel great. Lauren wants to, Lauren dropped the kids off for school. And I'm like, hey, let's go to breakfast. Give me 25 minutes. I got to bang out a video. And I post that video. And then right after I post that video, I feel like I have an hour and a half to just screw around and then my anxiety starts setting in again. All right, I got to go back to being productive.
I'm curious though. Have you talked to a therapist about the work? I don't want to call it an addiction because
I have a therapist,
but because I have the exact same thing. But would you consider talking to someone and getting to the root? I don't want to say the cause, what's pushing you in that direction? Have you always been like that?
Probably.
Okay.
And I probably should. I think the right answer is yes, because we so much characterized like mental health as like, oh, if you see a therapist, you have a problem, when that's not true at all. Like we should all be talking to somebody, but we don't learn that in our schools, that we should talk to people about how our mental health is. But yeah, I definitely feel broken. Like there's a lot of anxiety. I feel like I've always got to be working. It's even when I came here, you guys are setting up, and I'm like, oh, what's the terminal saying? It's Christmas freaking Eve, man.
Yeah,
you know?
It's so slow. That's what I hate. Like even weekends for me, I keep looking at CNBC and Wall Street Journal. I'm like, it hasn't updated in like 3 hours. There's nothing there.
Yeah.
So this obsession is mainly just in work, or has this been in every facet of your life growing up?
Well, I mean, it could be video games as well. When I was really obsessed with playing, let's say, World of Warcraft or RuneScape, every opportunity. For example, I'd be in high school, and I'm like, this class is so dumb. I can just do what I need to pass the test, but I don't actually need to be here. So I would try to find ways to leave my class. We had a lockdown campus, though, so I would usually park where the construction site was, and none of the construction workers cared, and they had no security there. So I would go that way and then take my car and drive just to go play video games because I'm wasting time in this class. I could be advancing. I could be leveling up. It really feels like that. Like you get this anxiety,
It's the same
this
thing.
addiction.
Yeah.
It's bad. And that's why I'm most happiest when I just posted a video, because I feel like that's my opportunity to be like, okay, I'm going to go wrestle with the kids. I'll take them to the park. We'll go on a run.
I feel the same way. For me, it's always an hour after I post the video, and it does well.
Yes.
If it does bad, I'm thinking about it the entire night. How could I save the video? What could I change? What sort of title? And even though I could be present in my mind, I'm thinking like, okay, what title? What could I do? What could I do?
Oh yeah.
So yeah, when it does well, that hour afterwards where there's nothing that I need to do.
I think I just posted one that's probably like a 1 to 3. It is. It's a 1 out of 10.
I watched it.
Oh,
What
did
was the
you?
title?
Okay.
What was
It
it?
was. We are effed. Elon Musk agrees.
But half the I would say 90% of the video has nothing to do with Elon Musk. Just the first minute kind of does.
That sets the standard for what we were talking about, like
Yeah.
logic and research and reasoning, and then I wanted to give people some value too, like deep dive.
Yeah.
That. But anyway, so that feels great. You're right.
Yeah.
When a video is doing really well, and so that gives me less anxiety for sure. I agree with you. And if I have a bad video, I'm usually like, all right, I got to find another video to post. And then you go to the end of the day, it's like, and Kevin had 8 videos today. And they were like 9s and 10s. And it's like, oh, finally a 1. All right, I'm going to bed.
So for people that watch your video, is it ever the more videos you post, the more you keep posting until you hit like a 1, which is like a best performing video? So if you post 8 videos that day, I'm like, well, that means the other videos didn't perform that well, so you're posting more? Like if you have a 1 right out the gate, are you less inclined to make another video that day?
Yeah,
Really?
absolutely. So if days I post
my
more,
gosh.
sometimes. So I think there can be really great content, but sometimes the content is a little niche down. So if I really want to talk about Rivian, only people who care about Rivian are going to watch that, right? And so those videos can be really information dense. I can do a fundamental analysis, and maybe they'll be a 8, 9, or 10. Well, it's like I just put in the most amount of work for a video that did the worst.
Yeah.
Sometimes the videos that are just off the cuff, like honestly, this one was just like Elon tweeted this, and then it got me thinking for 20, 30 minutes, whipped it out, 20 minutes, and it's doing great. Sometimes those videos are just the best, the ones where it's just that free flow of what you're thinking compared to the fully researched ones. I've noticed.
Yeah.
But first, we want to thank our sponsor, Ritual. Hey guys, the only thing that is more intimidating than these guns right here are the confusing ingredients that are in protein powders and the overall idea of them.
And the truth is, deep down at a cellular level, we all need protein, and it's not just about muscles.
Ritual's team of scientists reimagined protein from the ground up, from how it's made to who it's for and why it's needed.
The result is a delicious plant-based protein offered in 3 premium formulations for distinct stages in your life that have different nutritional needs.
Whether you're doing reps at the gym or you're more into walking dogs, Ritual's essential protein is perfect for everyone. I personally make a protein shake twice a day, and their 20 grams of pea plant protein keeps me going strong all day long.
And Ritual's protein powder is made to satisfy your bones, brains, and muscles to help maintain your body as you age. So why not shake up your Ritual today? And to make trying something new less scary, Ritual offers a 100% money-back guarantee if you're not in love.
Plus, Iced Coffee Hour listeners can get 10% off your first 3 months by visiting ritual.com/ICH to add your essential protein today.
That's ritual.com/ICH to get 10% off your first 3 months.
Thank you so much, Ritual, for sponsoring this episode, and
back to the podcast.
Yeah. Tell us about your team now, because my understanding is that now you have a few people that you've hired.
Yeah.
And we've hired people now. You know, can we make the announcement about you, Jack?
No,
we can't make that yet.
Well,
Jack is
now
looking,
you have to.
Jack is looking for his own Jack, aren't you?
yeah. I've hired out a few of my projects right now. And it's really nice because then it gives me more time to focus on other things and more free time that I can just enjoy and spend working, doing things. But yeah, I found someone to take care of a few things. For example, this podcast right now is being edited by a new person.
Ooh.
So
Jack's
shout
got
out
a
that
Jack.
new person. Yeah.
Jack has got a Jack.
It's really nice. Yeah.
Will the audience know the difference?
No. Because you know why? How long have you had this Jack for?
Like editing the podcast?
Just in general.
A month and a half.
A month and a half. Nobody's noticed.
Yeah, no one said anything.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is such a value to having employees that can really help you advance.
Oh yeah.
There is a point where, and it's always this tipping point where sometimes you get to too many employees to where it feels like you added another employee, but they're doing. Let me rephrase this. Think about it this way: you add one employee, the productivity from that one person, amazing. It helps you out so much. You add another person, you get maybe 50%. You add another person, you get like 20%. It feels like sometimes there's this diminishing return.
It's diminishing marginal
Gosh.
utility.
There you go.
Gosh, Jack, see, that's what I've been telling Jack. Jack and I have been going back and forth over this. We agree on 90% of stuff. There's 10% that we don't agree on. And, you know, I have my way and Jack said on his way. But one of the things is hiring out people. And every guest we have on the podcast is like, you guys should be hiring that out. And they hear about my schedule. Oh, you're working 12 hours a day. You should be hiring that out. Find someone else to script your video. I'm like, you don't get it. No. But they always say hire. And I see Jack's eyes just light up. He's like, we should hire. We need more people. And I'm telling Jack, no.
I just don't think we're at that place where the diminishing marginal utility is so low that it's not worth a basic salary.
So not to boost your ego here, Kevin, but I say, look at Kevin. You're the only example that I've ever given Jack. I'm like, look at what Kevin's doing. Whatever Kevin's doing, I want to do that. Stop.
Well, he's posting several times a day.
Right,
and
but look
barely
at the
editing his
productivity.
videos.
But look at the productivity.
Right, but do you want to do that as well?
I can't post as many times.
So Kevin's not. I don't think it's a fair comparison, just based off of the types of videos.
Well,
that
I guess more broadly, the way to look at it is, at no point should you have too many employees to where you start feeling resentful, like the productivity is going down. I think that's the ultimate test. And I've gone through this many times, once with my construction company, once with the campaign, and then more recently where I'll hire folks, same thing, again, construction, campaign, and more recently, hire folks, first, lots of productivity. Second, lots of productivity. Feels great, love it. Then you add 2, 3 more or whatever. Now all of a sudden it's like, oh no, the last addition has not been what you expected potentially. And now all of a sudden, and this is the dangerous part, is if one person becomes less productive, everybody else sees that as, oh, well, if they can get away with being less productive, let me be less productive. And then it hurts the whole ship, right?
That's interesting.
And that's dangerous.
Yeah.
And it's so dangerous, especially if you're trying to build a company, because imagine if you had a 5-person team and 2 of them were slackers, but now you 10x this and you had a 50-person team. That means you have 20 people on payroll that you're paying that are actually hurting the other 30. That's really bad. So it's really difficult to let people go, but sometimes it has to be done for the sake of growing properly, I think. And it's been really hard because I've done that in the construction company. I've done that in the campaign, and there'll always become a time where I have to do that again. I love hiring, but I've also been very frustrated because there are so many times I've looked and I'm like, okay, I'm paying somebody for 8 hours for something I can do in 30 minutes. And that's when, like, when you're having those comparisons, that's when you know you have the wrong person for the job.
Right.
So that I think is, and I'm not expecting somebody to work the way I do.
Yeah.
But like if something takes me 2 hours, it shouldn't take you 20.
Right.
And sometimes there's a training element to that as well. And some people just don't care. And that's a danger about us being public finance folks, is they see, oh, well, that's how much money you're making.
Yes.
You know, you owe me. And we see this a lot in society, is that people have this belief that, well, you owe me a living wage. Well, you owe me, my rent, or you owe me this. Well, my belief has always been you should provide your value first, prove how good you are first, and then get paid more. If you're not getting paid more, then it's time to move on, right? But for example, one I'll just go back into the past. One person, and I'll stop talking about this.
No, I find it interesting.
Yeah,
Keep talking. Keep talking.
So I'll make a hypothetical example because I don't want to reveal numbers for their own privacy's sake. But let's say somebody, and again, fake numbers here, but similar scale. Let's say somebody started working for $20,000, and you're like, oh my gosh, this person has this incredible perspective. They're early to work. They're the last to work, last to leave work, and they provide perspective that's valuable, and they really care. Even though they might make mistakes, which is totally normal. Mm-hmm. Mistakes are different from lack of caring, right? Mm-hmm. They put in the effort and they try to get better every day. That person has, in my world, gone from making 20K to making 60K to making 120K. Mm-hmm. Different scale, larger scale, but that exists. And that, in my opinion, is what that's the goal if you're going to hire folks, is you want to hire people where you're like, I value them so much, I will gladly pay them more. And if you're ever feeling bitter, they got to go. And that is probably my biggest weakness, is I don't let people go soon enough. You know, somebody told me yesterday, I went to sushi with them. He does wholesaling, product wholesaling with China. So he's in the depths with this whole supply chain nightmare. He does little Gorbanza bags where they put, like Christmas things in or whatever. Anyway, he sells these.
Sure.
But think about it like he buys them for 5 cents, sells them for $0.25, right? That's the goal. So he'll buy thousands of these. Anyway, so he's very experienced working with employees, and he's always said that, unfortunately, if somebody's not productive in your company, you've hired them, what they're really doing is there's no difference between them being unproductive and them just stealing from you at one point. And so he has this like really extreme view of that, and I think this is a little too far, but he's like, if you're running a business and you want it to be successful and you don't want to go bankrupt, like 50 to 60% of businesses do go bankrupt, then you almost have to be, and this is such an evil word, but he said it, you have to be a tyrant. And to the point where if somebody's not productive, they got to go. And you want to give people warnings, you want to be able to train people, right? So there's always that. But beyond that, if somebody's not caring, and obviously their head's not in the right place, they don't care about the success of the business, they got to go. And so that's always been a big struggle for me, because I never want to be the guy that's like, oh, you're fired. Like that is like the worst possible thing. Like I just want to be able to say, I want to hire, but I know I'll go bankrupt if I keep doing that.
How many people do you have though right now?
Right now I have, let's see here. We just hired an InHouse CPA, and that would bring us to 5, and I should probably be at 4.
Tell me about this in-house CPA. That's interesting. How does this work?
Well, so one of the frustrating things that I've had is bookkeeping is very complicated when you have multiple different businesses going on. Mm-hmm. It's one thing if you're running your own, like mint.com, and you have business and it's just a side hustle or something, you have a personal income, and you have maybe 2 or 3 transactions a day to look at. But if you have multiple rental properties, multiple different businesses, multiple different employees, multiple different notices and insurances that you have to deal with the state, and follow up on insurance policies to make sure you're protected in all these different ways, whether it's, every business has liability insurance, errors and emissions insurance, then there are umbrella insurances, and that's for every business. So we might have 20 or 30 insurance policies, and it's just exhausting. So I can't do it myself, and I've had a lot of problems trying to say, okay, well, I'll outsource and hire a bookkeeper, because the bookkeeper, I'll give them sort of my notes on what the expenses were. A really good trick that I think everybody can use, quick tangent, is just use, like with Lauren, I use this little spreadsheet. So I have a little number spreadsheet on my phone. We're synced together. Every time I spend something, money, let's say I spent $7 on this, I'll put $7 personal expense, or $18 business purchase for Amazon real estate. And then that way a bookkeeper can later go in and organize that all and chart that all. But I've found that not having somebody in person is like a nightmare, because I'll end up just getting an email from an outsourced bookkeeper every 3 months, and they're like, okay, here's all the things we have questions on, and I'd have to sit there for 20 hours to answer their questions, and then at that point, it's like, I may as well just do it myself every day. So now I wanted to bring somebody in-house, so we'll probably pay them, somewhere around $120,000 to $180,000, somewhere that's about the range for that.
Wow.
But
yeah.
That's tax deductible.
Right.
And I expect that's going to save me a lot more in the event there was ever an audit in the future.
Yeah.
This would be the best insurance policy for that. Somebody who's like, okay, you spent money on that, give me the receipt, I'm going to document it, I'm going to sort it.
So if they're in-house, how often do you see them?
Well, I really like seeing employees every day. Not that I don't want to micromanage people, because I don't have the time to micromanage people. This is another difficult thing. Like people have to be self-motivated, which I would love to hire self-motivated computer programmers or editors to come work with me. But it's also hard to find people right now. But beyond that, I like seeing people every day because that way if we sit down in a room in the morning, middle of the day, afternoon, like, okay, here are the latest problems. Okay, here are the latest questions. And so that way it's kind of like I post a video, I can go in, sit down and, okay, what do you got? What do you got? What do you got? And we can solve things right away as opposed to like, oh, I got to get back to the emails or I got to call this person back. It's so much easier in person.
That's interesting. That's what Jack and I were talking about, not even a few weeks ago.
Yeah, it would save us because it's already difficult enough to get paid between Graham and I because we have different set percentages on all of our different business ventures. And then there's net 30 on some payments, net 45, net 75 on some payments.
Oh, yeah, the sponsors are a pain.
And to balance all of that out is a total headache. For example, I just recently got paid from the month of July. That was like, I think that was like last week maybe, or the week prior, but just because it's so much of a headache to go through that entire spreadsheet. And not only that, but also like just bill collecting in general, when you have like tons of sponsorship revenue coming in all the time, or like frequent checks, coming in. Even his rental properties, stuff like that, like dividing up the payment between Alex, Graham, and I on the family, the iced coffee hour clips, all this stuff. It would make sense to have someone just to handle it all.
We're doing it all ourselves, basically.
Yeah, but for the time saved.
But first, I want to thank our sponsor, Trends. Jack, have you heard about Trends?
No, I haven't. But man, I sure wish I had some sort of service that would tell me about all these new things that are coming out.
Well, I have great news, man. Trends is exactly what you're looking for.
Business and finance is an extremely competitive space, and it always feels like everyone around me is one step ahead. But that is until I got Trends.
Trends is a networking hub with a thriving community of entrepreneurs and ambitious people, and they're constantly learning and collaborating on business ideas and projects.
Trends even hosts live business training and Q&A sessions where you can learn the latest marketing tactics and fundraising strategies from their team of business analysts.
And when you subscribe, you instantly get access to the Trends community, meaning you could potentially link up with other ambitious people, kind of like yourself.
Don't make the same mistake others have made and learn from the accumulated wisdom of people just like yourself that have made their dream a reality.
Trends is a tool to help you find a very valuable mentor and guidance in the sometimes scary world of work and being an entrepreneur.
Man, if only I had Trends to teach me about trends months ago. So take advantage of this special offer that they're only giving to Iced Coffee Hour listeners. When you visit trends.co/ICH, you can get a 7-day trial for just $1.
That's trends.co/ICH to get a 7-day trial for just $1.
Thank you so much, Trends, for sponsoring this episode, and
back to the podcast.
Yeah.
And see, there are some really cool things that I think a great CPA can help you out on a lot as well. See, there's something called a research development tax credit. I'll give you a quick example of this. There's a limit to it. I think the limit's $250,000 a year. But I'll give you an example. Let's say you spent $500,000 on a new business idea. That was a new innovation or something like that. So you can write that off. So in California, I'd take a $500,000 write-off, which would save me about $250K in taxes. So I spent $500K on a new idea. That saves me $250K in taxes, which means I've taken $250,000 out of my pocket and spent it. Reality. But now there's this research and development tax credit where you can take 30% as a tax credit on top of that. So 30% of $500K is $150K credit to offset that $250K. So now I've actually only taken $100,000 out of my pocket to do $500,000 worth of work. That's really incredible. That's something to look into. That's the research development tax credit. And again, it has to be for something innovative, and there are rules for it. You can only do it for 5 years, $250K max per year.
So what did you spend that on this year?
Well, I haven't this year.
Okay.
But I plan to in the next years.
Yeah. Wow. Why didn't you do it for this year? You still got another week.
Yeah, no.
Come up with an idea, Kevin.
Right. Well, because I would want to maximize the whole credit.
Yeah.
See, I don't want to start it this year and then only use like $50K because then you're 5 years. One of those years is chopped off. Maybe I do, but see, this is where it'd be nice to have a CPA where like, oh no, we do already have $250K, but
got it.
Accounting's a pain in the butt.
It's too bad you wouldn't be able to buy a $500,000 asset. Be like, we're testing this out as research, and we're going to buy this Picasso over here,
right?
that I'm going to hang up in my living room for business purposes and research it.
And that's the other thing that makes me so nervous now is that there are so many creative things you can do, but if you don't document it very well. And then you have, like an administration that we have now that talks about, okay, let's ramp up audits, 10x what we've been doing, then you're going to have a cancerous audit that's going to live with you, and you're just going to hate your life trying to go through that. If you have somebody in-house who does this full time, I mean, that's obviously a different level. Like, I don't recommend that for everybody, right? But having good books it gives you a lot of peace of mind.
Yeah. Tell us about the other 4 people you have, though.
Yeah. So
what do they do?
We do various different things. The biggest thing that I'm trying to train folks to do, and it's so difficult, is research. This is probably the most important thing, is trying to find good research. And there's plenty of research out there. It's just a matter of finding it. So I have subscriptions to whether it's VandaTrack or Bloomberg Terminal or these other services, and they cost thousands of dollars a month. But to me, they're the cheapest employees because, Bloomberg Terminal, I now get access to, let's say, 2,000 researchers that are consolidating information there. I don't have to pay for all those salaries, right? But now what we're trying to do is find information. So that could be, JP Morgan published an analyst report, and they see a trend happening in, electric batteries or something like that. Well, batteries for electric vehicles. Finding little pieces like that and putting them into larger bits of content is really useful, and I think it gives folks a reason to keep coming back to the channel. And so that's what I really like doing, is finding unique perspectives or unique content that I haven't thought of before. So just as an example, one of the things that I thought of recently was, it seems like and all the math kind of reiterated this, but just bottom line, it seems like the hedge funds are shorting stocks purposefully where retail investors are not investing. Because they're scared about what happened with AMC and GameStop, where what hedge funds are really doing is, in the case of GameStop, I think they wanted GameStop to go bankrupt. But most of the time, hedge funds are trying to protect their overall accounts from losing money.
Yep.
So they pick some stocks to hedge. In the event the market crashes, they think they'll pick up money on that hedge. But now they're worried about this whole Wall Street bets retail movement coming in and seeing, the short interest is high here. Let's all rush in and squeeze these hedgies out and burn them. When a lot of hedge funds, and I'm not trying to defend hedge funds, but there are definitely some crooked ones, but a lot of hedge funds are really just trying to make sure that if the market crashes, they don't lose everything and then lose all their clients, right? What I noticed is there are 4 companies particularly: Lemonade, Shift Technology, Corsair, and Tattoo Chef. Jeremy's, I know.
Okay.
These have all had substantial declines in retail investments or even outflows. So there's a service, I think it's like $3,500 a month or whatever, and they'll tell you where retail investors are investing or not. So they parse out, okay, here's retail, here's institutional. And when you notice that these 4 companies have had either 0 retail inflows or net outflows, and the short interest is like 30 to 33%, it's a sign that hedge funds can take safety in shorting these companies because they're unlikely to get squeezed out. Now they can track that on the daily basis. And if all of a sudden you saw a retail spike, then they can see, we don't necessarily have to go monitor every social media forum. Somebody in the retail community is now pitching this stock. They see the spike, they can get out early. So it's that kind of information that I just love. And so I spend most of my day behind a computer screen trying to research stuff like that.
and you hire 4 people to do that with you.
Yeah. But most of that right now is me training, because it's very, we don't teach that in school.
Right.
For example, if I give, an example here, I found this really, really good piece on the New York Times. They did this phenomenal expose on certain YouTuber, Chinese travel bloggers getting paid by the Chinese Communist Party to make positive YouTube videos and vlogs.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's really incredible about how the New York Times even said people will have access to parts of China that the media won't have access to, like Western media. So Reuters, Associated Press, or whatever, they're not allowed in certain areas. But then these bloggers are, and then they get a catered experience.
Yep.
Go here, these people are going to walk by or whatever, say nice things.
It's funny you mentioned that, because all of a sudden, I don't know how, but the YouTube algorithm sometimes recommends me just stuff out the blue, and then I watch it out of curiosity, and now it just keeps recommending North Korea, believe it or not. And there was a tour guide who went through North Korea, and it was this is what it's actually like. And it got 8 million views in a year. And it was a very similar thing. He acknowledged that it was a very catered tour, and they made it seem like everything is fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
But then that led to another video, and then I was watching this auto documentary of the whole thing that went on with him.
That's incredible.
But it's crazy how they can spin the narrative.
It's propaganda coming to YouTube.
Yeah.
There are always those jaded people in the comments that are like, oh, paid shill or whatever. Like, I mean, we're not paid by companies or corporations or whatever, unless we disclose a sponsor. But it's interesting to think that countries would do that.
Yeah.
And in that New York Times article, they even mentioned that the Communist Party wanted the YouTubers to say things that were bad about the Communist Party as well, but to talk about how great traveling was. Like, oh yeah, they do this. That's a little weird, but you know what? They're changing. They're changing, and kind of like trying to acknowledge the stereotype, but then saying, but don't worry, it's getting better. And it's really like this incredible psychology. Then you look at the comments, and all the comments are like, can't wait to plan my next trip to Shanghai.
No, they planted those.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really
The
incredible.
like bots to the top.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. So I thought that was incredible. But anyway, so I was going to say about employees and research.
Yeah, right.
Like, so I read that piece. I had a coffee a couple nights ago. I had a coffee at like 11 p.m. I'm like, I'm going to
11.
Yeah.
Jeez,
The
man.
reason for that is, so I get 6 newspapers every day, and I had gotten like a week behind. And when I get a week behind on newspapers, it's this tall, the stack.
Are we talking physical newspapers?
Physical newspapers. Yeah.
Physical newspaper. Okay.
And so I took the entire stack and a cup of coffee, and I went through it. And that was one of the articles I found. See, I found the article on like December 22nd, but it was actually published in the paper on December 16th. Had I not had the physical paper, I would have never seen that story. Because the cool thing about the physical paper is it's kind of like blockchain, me going through the blockchain, right? It's this record that doesn't change because it's there in paper.
Right.
Whereas like the websites are constantly updating.
Every few hours,
Every
yeah.
few hours.
Yeah.
And so it's only the latest stuff, not the stuff that could be really interesting that's timeless. So anyway, that's when I found that. And then I'm like, okay, hey, let's go deep on this. And I asked somebody to like go to some of these different videos and like give me timestamps, give me clips. Because I myself went through some of the videos and they'll say things, some people say I'm bought by the Chinese government after this article came out, but I'm not. And yeah, I read off a teleprompter, but I swear I'm not getting a script from the government. And like in the New York Times article, they're like, these people are often getting scripts from the government. It's hilarious.
But could there actually be a chance, though, that they're being honest?
Yes, of course,
Yeah.
of course. I think it's a mix of both. So I do think there is probably like, hey, say some nice things about us. We'll show you some exclusive areas. We'll take you to some exclusive restaurants. We'll pay that for you. And sometimes they'll acknowledge that. They'll say like, hey, I'm getting this paid for. So I don't necessarily blame the creators so much. Maybe there should be a little bit more transparency, especially with the comment section of that. The comment section is sometimes a cesspool anyway. But it is, I think the more broadly interesting thing is country propaganda now coming to YouTube.
Yeah.
And then the reason I brought this up as well is when working with, and this is where I'm trying to train employees, because you had asked about that initially. This is where it becomes very, very difficult, because my thinking is, okay, I want to be able to stitch together like a 20-minute video, putting together clips, comparing it to the article, comparing it to comments, clips, and then this a deep dive, which would probably take me 3 hours to put together. Well, one person had worked on it for 3 days, and I have no more than the summary of the article. And I'm like, I had the summary of the article that night. I gave you the summary of the article. And so I've talked to them about that, like, hey, let's go through, let's do this. But that's where sometimes I feel like I'm a bad boss, because it's like, I need to either train harder, or there's a lack of motivation, or I'm just not being really clear with my expectations. I don't know, but that is one thing that does frustrate me about being an employer.
No, at that point, definitely, I feel like 3 days is just lack of care. And wouldn't they have kept you updated throughout that as well? Hey, Kevin, this is taking a lot longer than I thought it would.
Some people do, and
Stuff like
A lot of people are afraid to ask, though, or they're afraid to bring that up because they don't want to acknowledge that I'm having a difficult
but
time.
3 days to come up with nothing virtually.
it's painful, because then the thought is, okay, well, maybe are they just misplaced? Is there something else that they could do? Is there something else they could do better? But that's always so hard, because sometimes you wonder, is it are they in the right place at all? Are they do they not like me anymore? Are they resentful of me? Like what happened? So it's
What's interesting? I was talking to I was with Jason Oppenheim last night, and we got together after a long time. I haven't seen him for a while. He mentioned to me that whatever you get in like the first month, usually that's what you're gonna get. The people don't change.
Yeah.
So he acknowledged that the people who are really pushing themselves, they'll do that from the very beginning. There's nothing that you could do to incentivize someone to push themselves beyond what they're already doing. So I believe that, and he's hired quite a few people, and he's not been shy about letting people go that just don't fit very quickly. Yeah,
he's a smart and shrewd business person, and I admire that about him. And so it's sad because again, you don't want to be the person that fires people, but.
Yeah.
But I did want to talk about something else. There's a lot of, I notice a lot of people, they give like real estate or mortgage advice on TikTok, and I'm just shaking my head and I'm like, okay, well, I maybe I need to go in there and make something. And I'm not trying to say like my perspective is right. I just have a very particular perspective. Like, no, that's not the Kevin way. And again,
it sucks because everyone is, and I acknowledge TikTok is something that we should all be doing.
Yeah.
All of us know we should. It's like going to the gym. Like, you should be going to the gym every day, but you don't do it.
Yeah.
And TikTok is one of those things for me where it's just, I can't seem to get into it. And it's so, I don't like how basic it is. Like, I see the people doing well.
Sure.
And Mark Tilbury is a perfect example of someone who's done TikTok incredibly well. He's done everything right for TikTok, but it's so basic. And that's how I started on YouTube, is doing those really basic videos, like the 3 best index funds to buy and like what an index fund is. Yes. I can't bring myself to do that again, but he's doing it and it's doing so well.
I think it's because you're trying to mentally grow and you've so checked out of the basics. I have empathize with this. That it's kind of like, do I really want to explain whether you should pay down your 30-year fixed-rate mortgage at 3% or not? Do you want to pay that off? Or do I really want to go through that again? And I get it. Like, I'd rather be like, oh my gosh, like what is the latest Barclays research and finding the latest cutting-edge thing that's going on or whatever. That makes me excited, and I feel really successful doing that. But that stuff doesn't do well on TikTok.
No, but you have to realize too, for myself, is that like this is a new audience. Like you're saying this to new people who have never seen you before and have no idea what they're doing.
Honestly, even if you posted those original videos again or just remade them on your main channel, there'd probably be a lot of people who are part of your new audience that hadn't seen this.
Well, that's what I do every now and then. Is I take the old videos that have done well from like 2 to 3 years ago, and I'm like, how can I just update this and make it better? And there's definitely, I would say, maybe the few percent of people who notice that, Graham, you made this video 3 years ago. But nobody goes back and watches it. Nobody goes back and watches the old videos.
But I mean, those people are like, I've seen this before. It's like, okay, and click out and wait for the next one.
No, I agree with you. The most fun I've had on a video recently was the Metaverse video. And that was your idea, Jack.
And what was it out of 10? What was it out of 10?
Oh, it was a 2.
That's good.
2 out of 10.
It almost tied with the 1. It was like a few thousand views away from the 1, but the 1 just kept doing better. But it was a new topic that I just immersed myself in for 48 hours. I spent a long time on that video doing everything I could. I loved it.
That's fun.
So much fun. Yeah.
And that's new. See, because now you walk away from that with all this extra knowledge too about the metaverse.
Yeah.
That's what I've been trying to reinforce in Graham, is that he needs to do new stuff, because that's what you're great at. You're constantly reading stuff and keeping people up to date on like all of these new things that are happening. But a lot of the times, like, we're still posting videos like credit cards, like how to increase your credit score. And I know that those do well. But at the same time, if you push the envelope a little bit, like Andre's doing as well with like the metaverse stuff, and he even did an options video, which you've never wanted to explore.
Yeah.
Pushing the envelope a little bit and trying out new things, I think, is the only way that you can just not die out as a YouTube channel.
All right.
Because people don't want to see the same thing over and over again.
But do you worry about that? I have a feeling you feel the same way about like every day is the same. For the market opens, market closes. Do you feel like every day is like, we're doing Neo again. Neo's up to 33. Tesla's down.
Yeah, I mean, to some degree, you had actually mentioned that you like watching.
I love them. Yeah,
so maybe I think the question is for you. We got to ask you, Graham, because I mean, something like I wake up and I'm like, I gotta, it's early. I gotta do the market open, the market close. And sometimes I'll be in the middle of research in the middle of the day, like, I've got to go do that market close, right? So it feels like a little bit of a wedge in the day. I enjoy doing it, and obviously people like it. But I don't know, Graham, why do you like it?
You know what? So I'll be honest. I've seen every single one of your live streams for the last few months. Well, actually, really since the beginning. I watched them all 2-speed, beginning to end. Wow. Every single one. I don't think I've missed a live stream from you. And in the morning, it's because it's become a part of my morning routine where I don't start the day until I turn on your live stream and I have my coffee and I'm like, doing my own research while listening to yours. Same with the market end. The part I don't like sometimes is I feel like sometimes the stock is a little repetitive when you're going through every stock individually and like this one's up, this one's down, this is up. I love the news. When you go through the news, what's on the Bloomberg terminal? Let's do this. The stocks are good, but I think the news is interesting, and I wonder if you took 15 minutes before and before doing a live stream to plan out the top 5 news articles that you want to cover and talk about. Just even if you glance over it, just a headline and a few sentences.
Here's a 2-minute summary on this one. 2-minute summary on this.
I think that's what would make a difference because I love the news.
I'll write that down.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I like the news portion of that the best.
What about tax write-offs? Have you thought about tax write-offs this year?
Yes. I didn't tell you guys.
You didn't tell
Neither one of you guys. So I was talking to Brandon Turner, who introduced me to this guy who he says is like the #1 commercial wholesaler. And I was blown away at this guy. He's like 30 years old. We could get him on the podcast. If you guys want to see him on the podcast, just let us know. He's 30 years old. He's already got $100 million worth of real estate.
And himself or like
himself
under management?
Himself.
Oh, wow.
Himself.
Great. Wow.
Started from nothing as a wholesaler, but he's that good. Okay. And his thing is basically he'll find like a vacant building and he'll do all the work to basically say, if you buy this building, we could get this tenant in there. And the tenant's going to start, they're going to sign a 10-year, like big tenants are going to sign a 10-year lease. And he just has the connections. He's so knowledgeable. But I explained the situation to him and I said, I got like 2 weeks and I got this big tax bill coming up. And I would love to spend enough on a property to write off that tax bill. And he came to me with a deal. It didn't work out because he couldn't guarantee that it would close by the end of the year. And it was a lot of work. But it was like 80 units in Minneapolis. And it was a fixer-upper. So he's like, and it was $22 million. And he said the seller was willing to carry some of the loan. Mm-hmm. I love this deal. Honestly, it's just I couldn't guarantee to close, and it would be a lot of work. So he says you're going to be spending probably the next 6 to 8 months fixing it up. And I'm like, I can't do that. But basically, I take all my cash that I have sitting on the sidelines for taxes, and I put it into this building instead.
And cost segregate it.
Cost segregated. The first year write-off was almost $6 million in the first year.
But it has to be in service for you to get the write-off. So you would have had to, I guess, call it in service with the existing tenants and then renovate it? Or, okay, I guess you could do that. Yeah, well, that's one of the cool things about being in the real estate industry is you could take that loss against some of your other ordinary income.
Correct.
But it's not necessarily open to everybody, but unless you're like a broker. In the real estate business.
So the downside, though, couldn't guarantee to close by the end of the year.
So that wouldn't work.
So it didn't from that standpoint, but also it was more work than I wanted to take on. And for such a big purchase, like that's a purchase that I would probably spend a month or two like really analyzing. And he's like, if you need this deal, you have to get everything into the lender by 6 p.m. today. And I was like, I have until 6 p.m. They've already done appraisers. They've done everything on it. But
I would be curious to know. I think this would be an interesting podcast guest because what did they start with? And I am skeptical that they have a $100 million portfolio themselves. I mean, maybe they do. Mm-hmm. They could do that with, maybe it was $20 million of equity that was a really good deal, and then financed that they were able to balloon into a $100 million portfolio. Yeah. Which I'm sure there's obviously going to be debt. Still, I mean, even if there's $65 million of debt,
doesn't matter,
or even $50 million of debt, that's still a lot. Yeah. That's created by 30. So it'd be really interesting to see how that built up.
Right.
So I think that would be phenomenal.
Yeah. The other option is, so this year I'm going to pay a big tax bill. It is what it is. I waited too long, so that was my fault on that. But the other option I was thinking about maybe doing something with Brandon Turner from Bigger Pockets, and maybe we could work together on a deal, and I could go on 50-50 with him or something like that. I think might be
like mobile homes.
Correct.
And he has a syndicate where he's basically buying parks. Okay.
But it was interesting to hear him talking about mobile homes and how he runs that business, and it's the cash flow from these mobile homes is incredible. To make 12 to 15%. to have very little responsibility other than management. Like you're not fixing up these mobile homes yourself. They own them. You're
just
renting
renting
the
the
land.
land. Yeah.
Correct. Very interesting. And then
now-
sometimes you could buy the mobile homes and then sell them, and then you're carrying basically this mobile home that you
Sure.
own.
But how could you cost segregate? Because you can't depreciate land. So how do you get a tax write-off doing that?
Buying the mobile homes and then selling
buying
them.
the actual
yeah, right. And then selling them to the people who live there.
I see.
And so instead of taking out a mortgage on a house, you are basically you're the lender for the asset that you own.
Oh, I see. Okay, you guys
Yeah.
are lending on them.
Correct.
What he's doing as well. That's
Yeah.
incredible because then it's almost like you're buying inventory.
Correct. Yeah.
Because they're like registered with a DMV.
Right.
So that's very interesting. There are so many creative things you can do. Sometimes I worry that that end of the year rushed for tax write-offs leads to bad decisions, which I almost made.
What was your bad decision?
I wanted to buy a plane.
Oh,
Graham's
the
super
Grant
quiet.
Grant
This is a
Cardone
clip
method.
right here. This is a clip.
The Grant Cardone method.
It's mostly because I also
You could put KP on the side of the plane.
it's just me lying down and then right
Half
where
RAF
the
Capital.
right where the landing gear comes out, it's like right, you know. But what's interesting about it is, so picture this. I'm just going to use round numbers here to make an example. Let's say you had a $20 million of income and you bought a $20 million plane. You put 10% down on it. That means you're putting $2 million down, and then you're saving about $10 million in taxes.
Yeah.
That tax write-off would pay probably for operating a plane for 3 to maybe 3.5 years. Pilots, hangar fees, landing fees, gas, maintenance, they're expensive as crazy. The problem with this is, multifolded. One, you have to have a really good use for the plane. The Puerto Rico idea would have made a lot of sense that we talked about earlier. Now, that would make a lot of sense to have your own plane for it. The second problem, though, is if you ever had to resell it, you'd be hit with all the depreciation recapture.
Recapture. Yeah.
So let's say
Now, is that taxed as that's ordinary income then? The recapture?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a capital investment. Yeah, it'd just be ordinary income. So that would be really bad because then let's say in 3 years you're like, I'm going to sell this plane. You sell it for 15 million or whatever. All of that 15 would be taxed. So you'd be paying 7.5 or whatever in taxes, which would hurt. But then probably the biggest thing that really hurt everything for all of the math that I was doing, besides purposes for it, is the amount of inflation you have right now and in plane values. So people are selling planes today for $25 million that they bought for $22 million.
No. Why?
2 or 3 years ago. Because first of all, because it is such a lucrative tax advantage, people are like, I don't care, I want it, right? Like I want the tax write-off. But the airplane manufacturers are so behind because they can't get chips or parts out of China or whatever. They're dealing with labor shortages. Like there's this airline manufacturer or airplane manufacturer called Embraer. If I wanted to buy a Phenom 300, which is like an $8 million list price plane, and it could get me around California, probably to Texas. I don't think I could get to Florida without stopping, but I could get to Texas. So it'd be a really good, like, middle of the United States and West Coast. Like, if you were going to do a real estate fund or something, you could get around easily. And then, I get an airport 10 minutes away in Oxnard, which is really cool and convenient. But anyway, if I wanted to buy one new, I would have to wait until the summer of 2023 to get one. And if I bought a used one, I'll be overpaying. So now imagine this worst case scenario. You take the tax write-off, you buy a plane. After 3 years, you realize you don't need it. Now, not only did you overpay, so your depreciation is like massive, like your loss on actually having that asset is massive, but then you're paying depreciation, recapture, the extra taxes, you'd get screwed. And it's just like, do you really need it is probably the bigger question. As opposed to just being...
That's really interesting. It makes sense because used cars right now are insane. So what's cool, the Ford GT I bought, I paid $306 for it. One just sold with the almost identical mileage on it for $390. And that was only 8 months, maybe eight or 9 months later. So that car did just as well as the S&P 500.
Yeah, I don't think it'll last.
I don't think so. No.
I'm not trying to slam your car.
No.
That's also a concern that I have about buying something like, if you bought a plane, let's say, and you overpaid for it. Well, then you're literally buying at the top of the market.
Here's my thought. Let's say the market does end up going down or it softens for cars like that. Yeah. My thought is that the people buying those planes or buying those cars are in a position where they don't need to sell it at a loss.
Yes, correct.
So like for me, for example, let's say I did pay the $390 for this car and now it's worth $330.
Yes.
I just be like, you know what? Unless I need to sell it, I'm not going to sell it. I'm just going to hold it. So it's a bit of a different market. Like the art market's very similar.
But see, the HODL costs for art are like zero, minus maybe some insurance. The HODL costs for your car. I mean, what is it going to cost you to maintain your car in your garage? Your show
Probably,
car?
I don't know, $2,000 a year max. It's not much, but
the HODL costs for a $20 million plane are probably $1.5 to $2 million a year. Yeah,
that's true.
Hangar fees. There's limited hangar space because everybody wants a plane now.
How much does a hangar cost?
I have kind of just lumped it all together that my fixed costs for a $20 million plane are about 1.5 to 2.
That's
fixed.
Gas.
My understanding
gas
is
would be part of the variable.
The hangar fees could be like $5,000 to $6,000, or I guess $3,000 to $7,000 a month, depending on the size of the plane, right?
I mean, the way quick math, it was probably something to the effect of $100,000 a month as your payment on the plane, right?
Yeah. Right.
You're probably looking at somewhere around a depreciation of 1.5 a year, in some of these in depreciation, right? Just lost value.
Sure.
That's not even a cost. That's just, your asset value is losing 1.5 a year. Because if that plane is 10 years old, it's going to be worth half as much it is now. It's not an depreciating asset like real estate. Then you have, the maintenance. Stuff breaks.
Yeah.
And so you don't want stuff to break when you're in the sky. So you're paying massive warranty programs, massive fees for warranty programs. So that way your engines hopefully don't break and little sensors don't break. They were showing me, because I visited some of the planes, they were showing me that one of these little needle sensors, it looked about this long maybe, just a little needle that came out of the front of the plane, measures altitude and all these altimeter. I don't know plane stuff. It measures a bunch of stuff. They said that somebody just like walked into it and like bent it a little bit and we had to replace it, it'd be $75,000.
Oh, yikes.
Okay, that's this little tiny thing. You want to paint the plane because you can't wrap a plane. You have to paint a plane.
Why can't you wrap it?
Well, because
with the siding,
why do you have
is
to
it
keep it painted?
So, you don't. But I mean, like, I wanted to paint myself on it because that's what I do. Crazy, stupid stuff.
Really?
But you can't wrap it because
you put your phone number on the side of it.
Absolutely, man. Everything that you do in aerospace has to be approved by the FAA, and anything that increases the drag on the outside, no, because now you've changed all of the calculations for the plane. You want to paint the outside of the plane? This plane we're looking at, $300,000.
No way.
You want, listen to this. So interior, you have like lumber for the next to the upholstery, where your armrests are and whatever. And you wanted that to look good. You could restain it all for $280,000 just for restaining the lumber inside of the plane, which is so different.
Is that due to like regulations or is that due? Because I feel like you could just pay a handyman to like stain it, right?
So any change to a plane has to, again, be certified. So certifications.
Oh, the inside stuff
everything.
As well.
You cannot.
Really?
You can't change anything on the inside.
Like, let's see
So
a
it's all
faucet.
regulations.
Are they gonna know? Do people do? Is it like a rental property where it's like, you're supposed to put the AC in with a permit, but people do it without it?
I mean, here's the thing. I was actually thinking about wanting to do like the Mile High podcast and do like a podcast on it.
It's a great name for the podcast.
Yeah, now somebody's going to take it. But so I was thinking about that. But the problem is, if you're flying, it's noisy. You could use good microphones. That's useful. But where are you going to fly? You're just going to fly in circles and waste a bunch of gas? Like that's very bad.
Yeah.
Like, people are going to hate
just use it as a
for doing
set,
that.
though.
Right. So, but then you use it as a set. Have you ever been on a plane when it's on the ground and you're like, please get in the air because it's so hot? You ever get that feeling?
No.
Well, you don't.
Wouldn't you have like recirculating air? And
so let me
see.
Okay.
You could build a set that just looks like a plane.
My question
honestly.
to you all didn't work, but every time I get on a plane, I'm like, please turn the freaking air on. And it isn't until you're actually getting airborne that you're getting really good circulation. Maybe people in the comments can justify me here, but so I asked them to close all of the little things, and we closed them up, and we cranked the AC there because you know my studio, it's ice cold in there. They cranked the AC, and I'm like, it's hot. You're sitting on the tarmac, black. that heat is reflecting up. It sucked. It was not a good set. Like you said, it would be better to just build a fake set that looks like you're inside of a plane than actually film inside a plane. I wanted to mount cameras and lights, and I'm like, oh, well, I could just use like clamps or whatever. Nope, no. You change anything to the weight dynamics or whatever, it's a cluster F.
I think if you're looking for a good write-off this year, do the plane idea. I hate to. I feel like I'm giving Kevin like a way to compete with us now, because Kevin's going to do well doing the Mile High podcast.
Hey man, I'm a abundance mentality type of guy.
Really? I'm more of a keep it to ourselves kind of guy. Let's not give Kevin any ideas.
Podcast, it gets translated to you.
If you did, like you had the plane here, and you had like the really nice seats, and you had LCD or LED screens as the windows, and you could project like lightning and stuff like that. Like, how cool would that be? Or you could project like clouds, like kind of like passing by or whatnot, as though you're in an airplane.
Yeah.
And you could even, like, if you want to go crazy, you could do it as though like you rotate the cameras a little bit to make it seem like you're taking off.
That would be cool.
And you could act it. All right, we're going to take off now with our guest, and you rotate the cameras a little bit, make it seem like you're going back. Or you put the whole thing on a hydraulic. So like some of these things are actually...
There's getting some turbulence sometimes, but it's just the camera shaking.
That would be funny. Or no, you actually have it as though like the whole set kind of like moves up and down, and your drinks kind of shake and whatnot. So I went. So I did the podcast with Codyco's people recently, and check out their set. So they
did that?
Yeah, I did that. No, it wasn't with Codyco. It was their trillionaire mindset, the trillionaire mindset or something.
Oh.
So but anyway, that's their set, and they have it so that these are screens, the giant TVs basically they have mounted here that make it seem like you're in space. The whole thing. And so like constantly everything seems like you're just in space.
Airdrop that to me.
Yeah. So one of the
forget.
things that I've noticed is I honestly don't know how much people care about the set. People come for the value of the content. Now that's a thesis that I have. I could be
Set
wrong.
matters.
Okay, that's your opinion.
That's a fact. And I saw your video about an argument. You want me to make an argument? So I've done both without a set and with a set. My videos have done substantially better with a set. The iced coffee hour, I noticed an almost immediate difference when we did the set. I told Jack I didn't think the set mattered at all. I liked the couch approach because I thought, it's more casual, it's more natural, we're having a real conversation. And, I didn't think it was needed. We did the set almost immediately. The videos started doing better. I think it adds a sense of professionalism. And when people are, even when you're accounting for any better retention, like, do you think your videos would be a 5% better retention, even 1% better retention with a nice set?
Well, so I agree with you. I think like having a beautiful set has its benefits. And who knows, maybe they'll encourage people to come back more. But personally, I think the most important thing in our space compared to like a vlogger's kind of podcast or an entertainer's kind of podcast, I think in our space, we're always trying to provide value to people. Like, hey, here's a new way for you to make money. Here's a new way to think about something. Here's a way to succeed or whatever. I think if that's missing, I don't care what set you got. Nobody's watching your crap. Whereas you could be in front of a wall. If you're providing the best information possible, people love you. Look, just as an example, look at the guy, Dr. John Campbell. Maybe put like a little B-roll of his setup or whatever. It's just him in front of his laptop webcam, and then he has a paper camera where he shows like some of his statistics on a piece of paper, and he moves it around. You see his finger on it or whatever. Nobody cares at all about his set. The guy's got like, over the last month, because of Omicron, he got 100 million views in a month. Nobody cares at all. What do they care about? This guy knows what he's talking about. He's knowledgeable. He's researched. I want the facts.
Can you sustain that? And that's the thing.
No.
Yeah.
I don't think, because we actually saw the views on his channel ramp during the initial COVID surge, but then plummet substantially when COVID wasn't a big topic anymore. So you're right. So that's where maybe the set help with sustainability? I don't know. What do you think?
I think it matters, but there's extreme diminishing marginal utility, as we discussed.
I agree with that.
With set, so it's like as long as you have a good set, you're fine.
Good enough.
But like realistically, you could drop like easily $200,000, $300,000 on like a super nice set. But like it's not going to have, I don't think it could necessarily bring that much value back to you if you already have a $5,000 to $10,000 set. For example, the iced coffee hour set, all in with cameras and everything, is about $12,000, $13,000.
No way.
No.
These 3 cameras are worth more than that. Fine.
That's
Round
not
it
true.
to
No,
30.
it's okay. Well, we got the custom table for free. So if we throw that in, maybe it'd be like closer to $20,000. But still, at the same point, it's like we could have a 2-3. Like, I mean, if we shelled out the cash or whatever. But I don't know if it would necessarily bring us back that much value,
I agree.
even in the next like 3 years.
Yeah, that's also true.
Just because it's good enough. But
that's
the
fair.
couch was not good enough. That was really not.
I mean,
good.
I think that's a fair middle ground. It's like, hey, we've got good enough set, good enough cameras. Like I've always asked, like, should I make a new set? Would it bring? Remember, we went to Disney, or what was it, Disney or Hollywood, whatever Harry Potter
Disneyland,
is.
the Harry Potter. Was it Disneyland?
We saw the bookshelf in the Harry Potter
Universal
ride. Yeah, whichever it was. We went on the Harry Potter
Disneyland,
ride.
yeah.
And wherever the Harry Potter ride is, we went on that, and there was this really sick library setup.
I love that
where it
set.
looked like a sorcerer's table and all these books, and it was a gorgeous set.
Yeah.
I mean, that set design is probably worth $500,000 right there. It's so good. Would people watch my videos more because of that set?
In a way, I do think the answer could be yes.
But then, and this is the hard question, is would it bring us that money back? And see, this is the
Right,
question that I had to make or ask myself with plane as well, is like, if I'm spending $3 million a year on a plane after my tax write-off period pays for itself, so first 3 years free basically because of the tax write-off, and then I pay $3 million a year for a plane, am I going to make $3 million more per year because I have this? And if the answer is, sure, you'll make $3 million more per year, is it worth breaking even? I have to have a return on it to do it, right? And I think sometimes we get lost and this happened to me. Like I admit, I almost screwed up. Like I got so caught up in, I should do it, I should take the tax write-off, but then I haven't really proven the need for it yet or the return on that. And it's the opposite of what I do in real estate. Like, would I buy a house because I'm like, I really love this house. My tenants are going to love this. Or am I going to buy a rental property because the numbers make sense? Either it cash flows really well or it's an upside down deal, like a wedge deal, right?
Yeah.
Like, I do that for real estate. Why would I not do that with a plane? And so that's when I finally realized, I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
I would argue, realistically, if you're going to drop $300,000 on a new set, you would get a way better ROI paying someone, even if it's $100,000, to just post stuff on TikTok.
Ooh.
If you're looking at ROI,
Probably. Yeah, you're
purely
probably right.
ROI,
You're probably right.
you would get way much more value doing that than spending
You know
all
what?
that money.
A daily news segment would actually be really, and you could do this so easily. Just a daily news segment, 45 seconds, where you just summarize.
10 seconds a topic.
Yeah, exactly.
Stealing ideas
That
and
would
all.
do really well. I would try that, Kevin, for 30 days. And you don't even have to post 7 days a week. 5 days a week, and you have to stay consistent. It's like 4 p.m. a day, Monday through Friday.
That's
45
good. I like that
seconds.
idea, yeah.
45 seconds. Here's what's happened in the market today. And I have a feeling in the beginning you're not going to do much because people are going to be scrolling TikTok and be like, I'm not interested. I think after 30 days of you doing that, you're going to gain such a loyal audience who's going to look forward to that.
That's a
I
very
agree.
good idea.
Yeah.
I wrote it down, and I like
That's
that.
the trick with
Yeah.
TikTok. It just has to
might do
be
that.
quick.
And when I say I might do that, I should tell myself I will do
And
that. because
and
it's
the good thing with that with you is that I know you could do it in one take. And I think your total, I think your total time commitment per day on that, because you've already done the research anyway, is probably 5 minutes a day, realistically.
So
So
very good idea.
Yeah.
I mean, I encourage people to this is a big question I think we always get all the time too. Is like, hey, I want to be a creator too. Like, what should I do? Post, just freaking post. And this is what I'm literally not doing on TikTok because I'm just not posting. And people are like, oh, but I don't know what to make. I don't know what to make. Well, try it. Try 10 different things on TikTok. Try 10 different things on YouTube. And guess what? After a month, you're going to look back and go, well, that did well. That failed. Okay, do more what does well. That could do well, but I'll only know if I try it.
you know what? Speaking of which, I called it first. If we could do a TikTok at the end of this
Oh, okay.
with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
I'm happy to
I
do
called
that.
it first. I said it first. It was my idea, Jack.
Okay, take it.
My idea.
All right, look, I think it's the collaboration. It's so awesome. What about so for next year? What are you going to do tax wise? You're going to go
Buy a property.
real estate. Yeah?
I'm like
I agree.
95% set on buying a property because I got how much did I get? I got $7 million invested in stocks this year.
Okay.
And
Congratulations.
I basically, so I wanted my stocks and real estate to almost be 50-50. And when I count equity in the real estate versus equity in the stocks, it's almost 50-50. Actually, it would be 50-50. You count like cryptocurrency and stuff like that. To be 50-50.
I would count that
So
together, yeah.
so I hit my goal this year to be 50-50 between stocks and real estate on that. So now I think I want to get back to real estate. But just because I think the tax write-offs are so great, and I'm realizing too, like I got in the stocks thinking, ooh, if I spent 3% a year, then that could be, whatever's 3% of 7 million, $210 a year I could live off of and passive income forever.
Right.
And then I'm thinking to myself, well, realistically, I'm never going to sell. Like I look at the dividends, and that portfolio generates, I think it's $58,000 a year in dividends.
Wow.
And I think to myself, well, I'm just going to live off the 58.
There you go.
Why live off the 210? So I think psychologically, I can't sell something. Even if I were to retire, I couldn't sell the 3% a year.
I love it.
So I think for real estate, I think it makes sense because then at least I'd have some cash flow that is coming anyway. And it forces you to,
You'll be, I don't know, what, like 95? How old was you? 30?
in 30 years, I don't know, 100 and I'd carry the 2. I don't know.
But, then these properties are paid off too. I mean, not necessarily, when you're retired, that's great. Imagine, I was talking to somebody, like I mentioned that wholesaler yesterday. So he's got, I don't know, 20 properties or something like that. And I think he's about 80% paid off, relatively close to retirement, and probably somewhere in the neighborhood of, I guess without disclosing too much, multi-hundreds of thousands of dollars in just passive income. Doesn't have to do anything every year. But the interesting challenge or issue that he has is he's like, Kevin, I want to do something. And so it's such a weird thing to see that in him, who's, in his, I don't know how old he is, 60, 65 or something like that. We think, we're going to retire when we're 65.
I couldn't retire.
I don't think I could retire either. And he's in that place where it's like, I don't have to do anything. The properties just pay for it. You buy them and over time you pay them off. Now they're paid off. Now what? And I was like, what's the next thing? He keeps asking me, Kevin, what am I going to do when I grow up? and it's like, it's really interesting. It's there's something just about working. I don't know. I can't retire either. People always ask
the same way.
What's the most common question I get, Kevin? What's the number where you're just like, that's it, sell everything and retire? It's like, it's not about a number. The whole game for me is not about a number.
Graham, you have a number?
I did. No, at first I looked through my old Reddit posts, by the way, from
mil.
no, it was 5.
Oh, wow.
It was 5. And this is when I was probably 22 or 23. And I remember posting on the financial independence subreddit, I'm like, 5 million would be my number. That would be enough to get like a nice, like $1.5 million place in Los Angeles. You could invest the rest in rental property, and that would be enough. But yeah, and then it was 10. Now it's going to be, I don't have a number, but milestones. 20, I think would be just the next milestone just to hit. Yeah. But I think 100. 100 to me seems like,
Dude, a tenth of a bill.
A tenth of $1 billion. Yeah.
That's big, man.
But I just want to see the 100.
No, okay, so how?
But it wouldn't change anything. Yeah.
No, it doesn't change anything. No. That's the thing. If anything, it just gives you an opportunity to start businesses or to do things that you couldn't have otherwise done. Mm-hmm. What do you think about the whole, like, the Elon Musk, like, tax the rich thing and stuff like that? I don't know if you want to talk about that. If that's
no, we could talk about it. What about it specifically?
Well, just... there's all of this talk about, okay, we should raise taxes on people who have over a certain net worth, or tax people based on their net worth.
Oh, the wealth tax?
The wealth tax. Does that disincentivize people from doing projects or working hard?
I gotta say, yes and no, because if the tax rate were high enough for me, I'd spend it. So if, let's say the tax rate was 90%, if I didn't spend it, you guarantee I'd be spending all of it.
That's true.
What would be the point?
Yeah.
So there's got to be a middle ground between where the tax rates make sense to encourage spending, but not enough to disincentivize saving. And I remember a while ago, I was doing research on like the capital gains tax, and it was 28% was found statistically to be the point where it would encourage you to hold on long term, but not enough to incentivize you to sell. So it was 28%. I'm sure that also exists with taxes. To me, I think 37% incentivizes saving with the mindset that most likely it's going to be going up. So I'd rather save at 37% and spend later when it's 50%, let's just say, and it's worth more.
Or you're in California already at 50%.
Or you 52. I think it's 52%.
Probably, yeah,
or it's 50. What was it? 57, 58% if you count short-term capital gains with a net investment tax.
Yeah, that's true, because and then you're also losing other benefits.
Correct.
Yeah, that's the
so it was almost tax. It was, or no, it wasn't. It 60. Oh, it would have been 62% had they raised it back up to 39 point. Yeah, it was insane. But at 62%, I'd be spending it, and I would I buy whatever just because I'm like, I may as well.
Maybe the argument there is, would that generate jobs or
and that's the thing too, potentially. So I think a higher tax rate would encourage more spending that would benefit the economy, but. What is the cost of not saving, or what is the cost of not reinvesting long term?
Now, what about another concern I had with like the plane idea is like, oh my gosh, but like, what if next year you get canceled, right? And now you have a plane, and that liability. Does that ever cross your mind?
Oh my God, all the time.
Because it could all just go away tomorrow.
You don't realize how fast things could change. And, I don't want to go into examples, but I've had probably 3 times throughout the last few years that I could think of where I thought this is it. And it's just, but it's insane how quickly things could change. Like people will love you one day and one comment or one thing comes up and it's tide turns. Yeah. And there's very much a ripple effect where it's like you say the wrong thing. Yep. And then people have to disassociate themselves because then it reflects on them. And in a way, it's like, I get it. If let's say, I'm not accusing you of it, but let's just say something comes out with you. Sure. And, Kevin's made out to be the bad guy. We would almost have to disassociate ourselves because if we work together, then it's like, well, you're supporting someone who did this or said this, even if you're not guilty of it, even if it's just an accusation, I disagree with it. Does that matter if the public perception says otherwise? If everyone believes something to be true, even if it's not, do I want to insert myself there and say, well, and that becomes the balance. It's like, what's worth fighting for, what's not? And yeah,
I had this really good, in my opinion, video that I spent days on making, and it was everything about my campaign platform. And I've had B-roll in it about what's wrong with California's water situation or homeless situation or whatever. The video was about 45 minutes long, and I think it was one of my best in terms of the problems and solutions for California. But one little part of it made a reference. It had B-roll of the homeless issue in California, and Ben Shapiro talking about how bad the homeless problem is in California.
Yeah.
He was right about everything he said about the homeless problem, and the B-roll was perfect. That one clip made a lot of folks think that, Kevin supports Ben Shapiro. We can't vote for him because we don't like Ben Shapiro.
Yeah.
And it's like, like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, what he said was about homelessness, and he was right about what he said. Don't you agree? Don't care. I hate Ben, therefore I hate you.
Yeah, it's scary, honestly. And I've talked to Jack about this too. It's just like it's always the things like you're very careful. Like I am so careful. Even I'll be honest, like even something having a drink. This is one of the few times I've ever been on camera drinking anything. I don't swear. I don't drink. I don't do anything. I script everything I say. So it's, I'm really careful about what I say and what I want to put out there. And I'm thinking, can someone misinterpret this? And as careful as you could be, sometimes the thing you'd never even think would be an issue is an issue. And it's like, well, I didn't mean it that way. That wasn't my intention, but I could see how someone could perceive it that way. And it is what it is. So I've basically taken the approach that like every month, I'm just month by month at this point. It's like every month, you could be perfect
be
and
thankful for what happened. Okay.
Yeah. So like mentally I'm preparing myself for like, and I hate to like ever will something into existence, but I never want to think of something like, oh, I screwed this up. But, I just always think to myself, I'm really grateful for where I've gone so far. I've gone way further than I ever would have expected. And if something were to happen, I'd be really happy with the point up until
what
then.
You've done. That's a good point.
Right.
It's like you're reaching like checkpoints in a game and you're saving your progress and like I did really well to that point in the game.
But that's why I've saved everything.
You die
it's
here,
like,
it's fine.
But that's why I've saved everything. It's because I know, one thing or guilty or not, one thing could everything could stop.
So what about if you had to start over? Let's just say you or I or both of us got canceled or whatever. Like we got canceled over this interview or whatever. Both of us. Would you start over? Or would you just, that's fine, I'll take my dollars, throw it into, a dividend stock and just...
Depends. I think it depends on what it would be and how bad it would be. I mean, I would hope that there would be...
Like you're deleted from YouTube is the scenario. You got deleted from YouTube. Okay, just...
it's funny. I did a podcast with Ryan Pineda and he asked me, like, if you're not doing YouTube, what would you do right now?
Okay.
And I said music.
Oh wow!
So I do music.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
really.
as a passion project, or to like really try to make
I
money?
can't do anything without the purpose of making money behind it. So I find a way to make money from it.
Good.
But I would be doing music.
Dang.
Yeah.
Oh, music and coffee.
Music and coffee, yeah.
The brand
Yeah, no,
survives.
I do music.
What about you?
If I got canceled,
Yeah.
Well, I'd still have to work. I'm not quite at that point yet where I would just chill. But I'd probably reach out to Andre and be like, "Yo, Andre, you need some help?"
Find another job. Okay.
yeah,
gotcha.
find another job or something like that, or just do
Yeah.
my own. Well, actually, no.
Why didn't you say Kevin?
Well, because you got canceled.
As
Yeah.
in
We're
the
all
scenario.
canceled.
Jack,
okay,
you know what? Who would be worse to get canceled? Me or well,
Who would be worse?
yeah,
You.
because
like
I was about to say like if you got canceled, I couldn't.
need this more
I,
probably.
yeah, but like I couldn't do the podcast without you. I mean, that would be the thing. And then I don't know.
If you
I
got
couldn't
canceled,
do that.
I would probably I'd call up Nate O'Brien and I'd be like, "Man, please join me."
He's like, nah, sorry, man. I'm only posting once every other month.
Yeah.
He's got a great lifestyle.
Oh yeah.
So
I look up to
we
him.
went to Vegas with him at this point years ago. It was 18 or 19 or something. Maybe it was in 2018. I remember walking with him. It was ice cold outside too, but he was so happy, and it was just so carefree, which was so wonderful because he had no stress at all in his
No.
life, and just it's like, yeah, I post what I want, and I'm like, well, so you don't have a schedule? No. Yeah. Well, what do you do? Oh, I just travel with my car and I go places and do whatever I want.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, man, I wish I
But
could
you-
do that.
but you
and I
know
can't.
what?
You can.
But I
Why-
don't. But I don't.
But you know what the thing is? I don't think you wouldn't be happy with that. Nate would hate your life.
Oh,
He
yeah.
would hate
He
it.
would
The,
hate
the
it.
schedule,
Yeah.
the constant responsibilities. I've seen like what he's about. He loves the no obligation, and I envy him too. I'm like, he has all of his stuff in it basically he could fit it in the back of his car, and that's it. That's
jealous.
all of the stuff he has. It's not complicated, and he
love
could go
that.
anywhere at any time. But I don't think I would be happy with that of not having that strict schedule, having that obligate. Like I like that to go back to.
So almost like a different definition of happiness for everyone.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. But I think all of us would like to be Nate.
Yeah.
But I don't know if we would be happy with being Nate for more than like a few days at a time.
Okay.
I think it's a different type of happiness because
Yeah.
when I talk to Nate, like off camera and everything, he is, like you said, the most chill person,
Yes.
and he seems so happy and just stress free at all times. But then sometimes I'll talk to other people, like I'll talk to you off camera and stuff like that, and you're stressed out sometimes. and
Oh
you're
my God, all
unhappy
of it.
sometimes.
yeah.
all the
Sometimes
time.
So, like-
all of us. All
So
the
like
time,
you could
yeah.
say that every person has their own idea of what happiness is, but I also think that like there is a really I think there is an objective truth to balancing work and life.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, everything's the balance, right?
Right, and it's just tough to find that balance. And also, there was another thing I want to point out. I wanted to point out, but it was I think that it would be really tough for you guys to get canceled because
wow.
I think the people that consume finance content, all that they care about is your credibility. Of the credibility of what you're saying, right? So, like for example, if you guys did like something sketchy, like fraud, or you guys were sellouts, or you guys pumped something like that, that could cancel you
Yeah,
guys.
I
Like a
agree.
But as
coin,
far-
right? Like you made a
Exactly.
coin
Yeah.
and you frauded everyone.
Exactly,
right?
but I think
Yeah.
you guys are way too smart to do something like that
to
and
even
just
go there.
moral. But as far as like saying something maybe like not so PC or something like that,
Oh.
I honestly think people would not cancel you because they're here for the information more than they're here for like the personality, just in general.
Oh, that's an interesting
So
POV.
That makes sense. But but sometimes you don't know exactly. Like seeing
Ellen get canceled. That was
she got canceled.
Yeah. Oh, you haven't seen that? That was big for mistreatment of employees.
Oh, I heard about that. I never really liked
And
her.
she stepped away from her show. I mean, she said she was gonna. I'm sure she was gonna do it anyway at some
Yeah.
point. But it's like, well, if I do it now or 5 years, I may as well just do
Right.
it now.
Yeah.
Or like I mean, I don't know enough about this to really go deep in it, but even like Andrew Cuomo, like, could you imagine?
Yeah.
Like, both of the Cuomos,
Yes.
right?
Right.
Like,
True.
one's got a solid gig at CNN. The other one's got, he's well in politics and well established in politics.
Right.
And then just to go from like, and honestly, people would watch Andrew Cuomo and his COVID briefings during the beginning of the pandemic. I don't know if you guys did, but like March and April and May of the beginning of the pandemic, I remember Lauren and I would be like, oh, what's Andrew Cuomo got to say? Because like New York was like the epicenter. It was like, I remember when I lived in Florida listening to like the hurricane forecasters. Okay, it's now Category 5. It should make landfall at 7 a.m. And like getting that up to the minute update was always so like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And I remember watching him and I thought his briefings were good. I mean, obviously now in hindsight, we're like, okay, some things maybe weren't the best. But, and again, I'm not trying to get political on the podcast, but just to think that you could be at such a place where people are watching you and care about what you say and then literally now fired from CNN.
But the thing is, it's a herd mentality too. It's if everyone else hates him or her or whoever it is, then you should too. And what's crazy is
that
that
villainize you if you support them.
That's right.
Right. But it's I've noticed too, and you know this as well on YouTube. It's if there's good information or if there's something positive, people won't watch it. If it's negative, people will watch it. If there's drama, they'll watch it even more. And so some of our most viewed videos, unfortunately, they're the videos with drama, or they have some sort of emotional spike in the video. It's like, what did this person say to this person? Why are they angry? Why don't they like this person? And it's something that I think people inherently get really invested in that.
That's true.
And opinions are really hard to change. Like it could be, you could have a positive opinion. It's hard to change a negative opinion about someone.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. Now I want to ask you, when are you ever going to go into margin? Maybe I'm only asking you because I just recently went back into margin. I feel bad about it.
Oh, I'm so heavy in margin right now. I'm so upset.
ASMR.
No. Yeah, I was worried about you for a second because I know you went in margin. How much? 5 million, 3 million in margin?
Right now, if I net out cash, because I have some cash at different brokerages, I'm about 3.5.
3.5. And I knew that while watching your live streams that you invested like all of your money during the recent dip.
Yes.
And then it kept dipping for those extra 2 days. And I could tell, like in the back of your mind, you're like, oh crap, did I just spend everything a little bit too soon?
Sure. Oh yeah.
And then the market just rebounded.
Sure.
But yeah, no, I don't want to mess with it. It's just the stress.
It's very
just
stressful.
like I don't want to do that.
It's not worth it.
I would go into margin to buy like that real estate deal if I needed to. I would
Temporarily.
gladly do that if I knew that like, okay, I'll be able to pay it back off in, X amount of months or whatever it could be. But that would be it.
That's a good point. Yeah, because now, I mean, the tax bill is going to be insane. I don't even know what to do yet. And so I have to pay off my margin before tax time, so that way I can now go fully in margin again just to pay my taxes. But yeah, taxes are always an interesting thing, especially in California. See, you got out of California, lucky dog.
One last question,
Please.
and then we could turn it on you if you have any questions for us. But what are your thoughts on the metaverse?
Ooh, I think for now we're going to be in this spectacular phase of ridiculous speculation, mostly. Everything's going to be extremely speculative. There are some really practical applications in the metaverse that I think are going to be really cool. So, for example, Jack, your dad does, I'm not sure if he still does, did appraisals. That was his career. And I think it would be phenomenal if we had like Matterport scans of let's say a property, and he could essentially like teleport or just appear in that scan of a property with let's say the listing agent, and they could walk around that property just wearing like a VR headset and VR stuff. So it's as if we're having this conversation, but it's all digital, but I can also walk with you around a space. So it's kind of like, oh, what's over here? What's over there? That I think is going to be our first sort of practical application of the metaverse, where it's kind of like going to spaces or inviting people to a space. That could be home appraisals. That could be concerts. I think will be very, very popular. It could be, hey, let's visit the Great Wall of China. I'm never going to China. I think I'm going to get killed if I go to China. I say too much crap about China in my live streams. So like I reached out to Neo, and they're like, hey, we'd love to like do a video with you or whatever talking about Neo. Let's do it in Norway. He said that. They're a Chinese company.
Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, so I don't want to go to China, but I want to go to China, right? And if I could do that in the metaverse and I'm at home, then it's like, hey, Lauren, it's 5:00. What are we going to do? Oh, let's go to the Great Wall of China. Let's go watch a Chinese show, like a performance or whatever in the metaverse space. That I think is spectacular.
Yeah, I think it's going to go in that direction. I thought it was stupid initially, and then I spent that weekend doing research, and afterwards, I was like, this is going to change everything.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember during COVID, we would sometimes play those games on, I forget what that was called, whatever game that was
We'd
called.
Zoom and then go to that website where you play the game together. Yeah.
Right. But imagine being able to put on a screen and both of you are here and we could do this virtually and it would all be recorded. We could kind of set up our virtual cameras anywhere at any, the lighting would be perfect always. Or to be able to go into an office and you put in that headset and your office is there and everyone's around you who's working and you could share documents instantaneously. So I could see exactly what you're working on. You could see what I'm working on. We could share. I think eventually this could be 20 years down the line, but eventually I think office space could be decimated by this. If eventually you just put on a headset and you're there and everyone's around you, it's going to, I think real estate's always going to be a bit of a local market. So like places like, by the beach are always going to be, in desire, but
office space. That's really interesting because, see, one of the problems with office space is you want to have this balance between like having your own like cubicle, like sealed off thing, but then wanting to be with people. But the problem is when you have too much of an open concept and like you're working on a project and then every 2 minutes somebody comes up to you and talks to you and like has an opinion or a comment or a question or whatever, now you can't be productive. But if you were in the metaverse, you could probably, I'm guessing, just like
do not disturb.
Push a do not disturb mode and you're like red.
Yeah.
you don't hear
You'd be
or see
red,
anything
but there
else,
would be like a poke button where if like you give 3 pokes to this person, then it
it's
disables.
an emergency or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah. You only get one of those uses a day.
Right.
It's brilliant. It's one of the reasons in real estate, and I've been really fussy about real estate. I only want, and people get mad at me for this, but I only want SoCal. And people get mad at me about this. And then like I've considered Austin and Florida, and maybe I'll expand in the future. But I look at it as like, I just want the Mediterranean climate. And I believe that if I buy properties that are in the Mediterranean climate, which is only in 7% of the world, SoCal is the only place in the United States that has the Mediterranean climate, then I guaranteed have at least a reason people will always want to move there. I'm not reliant on the Ford factory. I'm not reliant on the office space over there or whatever. I'm reliant on the weather, which this is the only place you can get in the United States. So I love
At what cost? If that becomes too expensive, people are going to give that up.
Oh, yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I was just in looking at a fixer-upper in Santa Barbara. I might post a video on it. But I looked at a fixer-upper in Santa Barbara, and it was $950,000 for a 3 and 2, 1,100 square feet, tiny little 1950s, cracked foundation, total fixer. Disaster, right? $950,000 for this. I get there, it's a circus. Everybody's got their home inspectors.
Because it's under $1 million.
Oh my gosh, it's under $1 million, right? And I'm like, I think, and I said this in the video, I'm like, I think this is going to sell for like $1,070 or something. So I found out from the listing agent that even she was blown away. She was getting offers for like $1,150. And I'm like, this is insane. Like, it doesn't even make sense to try to flip something like this anymore. And so there, I do think, so I asked her, I go, are these flippers? She's like, no, there's no margin anymore. Are they rental investors? She's like, no, these are just people who they want to live there.
And they have cash.
And they have the cash.
Yeah.
And so I do unfortunately think that, because this is a common complaint in California, it's like, oh, well, it's unaffordable to live here. I have to move. I shouldn't have to move is the argument people make. Like, why do I have to move? And it's like, well, unfortunately, in a capitalistic society, that's the way it works. If a place is really desirable and people want to live there, they're going to pay for it. And if you can't afford it, that means you have to move. And it sucks, but I think that's going to continue happening. So I do think that like SoCal real estate is a special investment, especially where we're filming right now in Ventura is a hidden gem because you're getting the Santa Barbara, the San Diego weather without the LA homelessness.
Yeah. You know what's crazy? I never would have said this about Ventura, but I really like it.
I knew you would, Graham.
Jack, but you know what? When I was going to the Oppenheimer Group every single day, I never would have bought up here. Ever. Because it's too far. But with the shutdowns and like not needing to go anywhere, I like it. Like if
the best, man.
Part of me believes that if I could snap my fingers and turn that house where I have now in West LA and I would get an even nicer place here, I might do it. You know, it's nice. I believe it. I believe it now. I see it.
Yeah. It's I don't know. Maybe I'm biased living here, but look, I grew up in South Florida. I know Florida weather. I know there are some wonderful things about Florida. I feel like it's a lot more of a free you could get away with a lot more. Everybody's got a gun. The town I grew up in was very cowboy. Everybody had a horse. Everybody had also a gun. And even the police force still had a mounted unit, like in Davie, Florida, like really, really country. So I feel like I grew up with cowboys, cowboy hats, belt buckles. I've got my Tesla belt buckle on, and boots, right? Which is very, very different from California. But this little part of California, some people call it Ventucky instead of Ventura, because it has a lot more of that, like that cowboy-esqueness.
Yeah, it does.
And that freeing feeling. So,
All right, Kevin, the question everyone is dying to know the answer to. How much money are you making this year?
oh man, yeah. Well, I wish I had a CPA to give me an exact, which that's why we're hiring one in person. There's still so much accounting to do, but it's probably going to be in excess of about 22 this year.
No.
Yeah.
And are you talking about
kidding?
stocks?
Are you counting stocks?
No, not counting stocks, like just ordinary income.
What? How?
Well, we started doing brand sponsorships now. That has helped a lot because I do a lot of videos. So that's
I've
helped
noticed almost
substantially.
every day you do a sponsor out of like your
yeah.
5
Is it one
videos.
sponsor a day usually?
Oh no, I mean I could do 3 a day because if I'm posting like 8
Jeez.
videos.
Flapjack. I thought you were about to say like 10 to 12, and I was like, all right. That's nuts.
I was
holy
hoping
crap.
to double that what we had last time that we talked about, because last time it was like
How
we were talking
MeetKevin
about that.
makes, it was like $2 million.
No, it was like
what
that 1 million a month, and it was one time I hit 1 million a month, right?
Oh, yeah. Have you ever had a $3 million month?
Yeah.
Oh my God. You know what sucks? You know what sucks?
Are you
Kevin?
kidding me?
You know what sucks, Kevin? Honestly, we've like secretly, I've always had this. I feel like this bit of like a rivalry with you, where I kind of look at. I know you look at what I'm doing. I look at what you're doing. We're like, how can we one up each other? And I've given up. I just seriously, man. For a while, back when you were doing the stimulus updates, Jack was like, Graham, so, Kevin's doing like 20 mil views a month. I'm like, but he's doing 5 videos a day.
Yeah, no, he was just totally
I'm like,
dismissive.
I know I can't just, do that, but, I'm doing well this year. Oh, man. It's like, when we're like this, I could be like, all right, well, I could compete. I could push myself that much. When it's like this, crap.
So you've done a $3 million a month. And this is funny because the first title we did was how MeetKevin makes $1 million a month. The second video was how MeetKevin makes $2 million a month. This video, how MeetKevin makes $3 million a month.
It's that much from.
Well, and that was those were like peak months. That's definitely not an average.
But I guarantee throughout this next year, now that you have the efficiency, because I've been seeing more of the sponsors in the mid-up that you've been pre-filming. If you're doing 5 videos a day and you have someone who's really on you with those sponsors, you could have like an 80 to 100% fill rate on your videos with sponsors.
That's true.
I only do a few a month because
That's
I
what
don't.
I'm saying, man. You go down to 2, and then you can have every single video filled with a sponsor. And you'll make so much more money.
But I feel
and
like
your content will be better.
Yeah, but the issue with Kevin is that Kevin's doing so many of them that he could just like.
But your content will be better, and you'll make more money.
For like Kevin, right now, like maybe half of your videos are sponsored, if that.
Sure. Yeah.
So yeah, for me to have half of my videos, like the same ratio, I would only have like 1 every other. Gosh, Kevin.
I'm sorry.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you.
That's incredible.
Yeah. It's also a problem because then I think you have brought this up in your videos. It's like that hedonic treadmill.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, now I gotta beat that. Like now that's the norm. Now I gotta.
Yeah,
beat
and you know what the thing is too, Kevin. Like your sponsors, they don't even bother me, and I worry with my audience too that they get bothered by sponsorships. But I see yours, and I'm like, they've reached out to me too. There's almost all of them that you've done. Almost all of them I've worked with too. So I know the talking points. I know what you hit. I'm like, sometimes your sponsor. Do you have someone else scripting them for you? That's why. Because they're good. They're good sponsorships.
Nice.
So they just give you the ad, and you literally just read it.
I can't stand dealing with any of that. So this is why I like having people in person. So there's one person that's like, Kevin, do this right now. Here's the prop now. Film it for me. And then he sends it off for approval, puts the little graphic edits or whatever. And then for another video, it'd be like, okay, now this one's approved. Here's the link you have to put in the description. Here's the clip.
And how far ahead do you film these?
Few days, 4 days.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's insane, Kevin. Congratulations.
Kevin,
It's okay.
It's not okay.
Yes, it is okay, man.
No, it's not.
Why? He's your friend. Be happy
I know.
for
I
your
am.
friend.
I'm happy for him, but usually there's a point where Kevin could get to where I'm like, all right, I could get to that too. I can't post 5 videos a day. He's productive in ways that I don't even know is possible without like stimulants of some sort. You don't. And I could attest to this. Kevin will wake up in the morning at 5 a.m. He'll stay up until 2. He'll wake up at 5 and be like, I have so much energy. I'm just gonna go on a run. And he'll go on a run for like several miles, come back. It'll be 7 a.m. He'll take a shower. He'll get a video done like 7:30. I can't do it. It's gosh. All right.
Sorry.
Congratulations. I'm happy
Thanks,
for you, Kevin. But I got some thinking to do. That's all. Well,
think
good
we're
to
good.
end on that, Kevin.
Thank you so much for coming over, Kevin. It is awesome to shoot with you. Also, happy Christmas Eve.
Merry
Yeah,
Christmas.
Merry Christmas Eve.
Thanks, all.
So,
Looking
with
forward
that
to it.
said, you guys, thanks so much for watching.
Make sure to subscribe. Get your free stock
Hit the
down below
like
in the
button.
description.
Subscribe to Kevin.
Subscribe to Kevin
Check out his content, guys.
and his TikTok, and hit the notification bell.
And with that said,
Until next time.